This is a Black Talk Radio News brief. Julius Jones's clemency hearing and Kyle Rittenhouse's pretrial hearing. Death row inmates' clemency hearing delayed. A clemency hearing for Oklahoma death row inmate Julius Jones, scheduled for Tuesday, has been delayed for a week while his legal challenge is pending in federal court. Jones maintains his innocence and says he was set up by a former friend who was the prosecution's main witness against him. However, during his trial, a juror was reported after his trial for racial bias. MSNBC's Ari Melber talks about the case.
He was once a 19-year-old who seemed to be on a decent path. At 19, he had no convictions at the time for any violence. He seemed to be putting some of his past convictions for petty theft behind him. Then he was arrested, tried before a nearly all-white jury. 11 out of 12 jurors were white, and he was convicted. And our special report right now has many details about the story and why it matters. Oklahoma is set to execute Jones within 3 weeks. But the first and most significant legal fact is that Jones did not face a fair jury of his peers as the law requires. This is not in doubt. Jones faced a jury that had members out to convict him no matter what. And that's according to them, according to members of the jury. It had a juror who talked about lynching him and who called him the N-word in front of other jurors. Here is how a member of this majority white Oklahoma jury later, after the conviction, recounted what a juror said.
One of the jurors said, well, they should just take this out back, shoot him, and bury him under the jail. Didn't matter what happened. This was a black man that was on trial for murder.
Additionally, for Jones, he and 5 other death row inmates are seeking to be reinstated into a federal lawsuit challenging Oklahoma's lethal injection protocol. A federal district judge on Monday rejected the inmates' request, and their attorneys immediately appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. According to a Wisconsin judge, victims of Kyle Rittenhouse can be called rioters and looters. Kenosha County Circuit Judge Bruce Schroeder ridiculously says victims cannot be called victims during the trial but can be called rioters, arsonists, and looters in the recent pretrial hearing of alleged murderer Kyle Rittenhouse. On August 25, 2020, amid the Kenosha unrest that had been preceded by the police shooting of a black man named Jacob Blake, Kyle Rittenhouse, a then 17-year-old from Antioch, Illinois, was driven to Kenosha by his mother to patrol the streets of Kenosha armed with an AR-15. The then teenager roamed the streets and would end up shooting and killing 2 people, and wounded another, during multiple confrontations at 2 locations. Rittenhouse's defense attorney argued the shootings should be weighed against the wider context of what was happening that night. All of that lawlessness, all of the facts and circumstances surrounding what is going on, is relevant in terms of Kyle Rittenhouse's conduct. I think it's impossible to say that it's not. The 3 men shot by Rittenhouse have never been charged with any crime related to the protests against police brutality that occurred on the night of August 25, 2020, nor has any evidence surfaced to suggest that they had. It is as if the judge wants to try the victims in his court and not the person tried with murdered and attempted murder among other criminal charges. Thomas Binger, the prosecutor, argued Monday that any behavior Rosenbaum, Ewer, or Grosskreutz may have participated in that night could lead the jury to believe they were arsonists, rioters, or looters wasn't witnessed by Rittenhouse and shouldn't be part of his defense. Assistant District Attorney Thomas Binger argued the judge was setting up a double standard due to his long-standing rule of not allowing prosecutors to refer to people as victims at trial. If I were to count the number of times that you've admonished me not to call someone a victim during a trial, it would be in the thousands, Binger said. The word victim is a loaded word. And I think alleged victim is a cousin to it, Judge Schroeder said. But Binger disagreed, telling the judge, I think it's the exact same issue. The terms that I'm identifying here, such as rioters, looters, arsonists, are as loaded, if not more loaded, than the term victim. This has been a BTR News Brief. Written and produced by Scotty Reed and sponsored by the nonprofit Black Talk Media Project. Make a donation towards the production of independent news media today.